Christians by our love, by our love. Yes, they'll know we are Christians by our love.
So now sticking with the theme of love, I think, Pastor Todd coincidentally picked February as the love month, and sticking with this sermon series of the love of God that changes everything. I thought, what better place to start a story, but by in the beginning, right? So I thought I'd start maybe with just a little bit of a history lesson, if you will. I've kind of done this before, but I think it's good and it's right to start here. So I want to start with the story of creation, and here we see God's original intention for creation and for humanity. God creates this beautiful and expansive creation, and in the middle of this tiny little galaxy, on this tiny little planet, in this perfectly balanced place to house living creatures, he creates these intricate and intelligent beings called humans to dwell in relationship with him and to tend to this expansive creation with him. The heart of God is to live in communion with humanity and to partner with us to care for creation together. You see, this is the love of God, to be with his creation, to provide all we need through his goodness. But we know how the story goes, as all good stories do. There's got to be some sort of mix-up, some sort of drama. And God still gives those first humans a choice, and they're tempted and eat from the one tree that God says not to eat from, and sin then enters and creates this divide between God and creation, and Adam and Eve are expelled from the garden, and the man will now struggle to work the land, and for women there will be pain and childbirth, and this breaks the heart of God. And from here, humanity only related to God through the building of altars and sacrifice, and eventually temple worship and mediation through priests and prophets. And through covenant. Really, the whole story of God only makes sense through covenantal language. Even in the midst of humanity's sin and unfaithfulness, God's love for his creation never fades. Instead, this covenantal God enters into covenant with his people time and time again, first with Noah, and then with Abraham, and again with David, promising blessing and provision, descendants and land, and he will be their God, and they will be his people. This is God and his abounding love choosing and wanting to be in relationship with humanity, to partner with them, and to do this life together because humanity is his precious and beautiful creation that he loves and that he is so committed to no matter how far they stray. And he renews this covenant over and over again. But you see, God chooses to be bound to his people, to his creation. God doesn't have to. He's God, right? Doesn't have to. He can do everything on his own if he wants, but he chooses to be bound to his good creation that he so loves, and to be bound up in relationship with his broken and yet precious people. And time again through their history, I've talked about this before, the people of God are unfaithful to the covenant and turn their backs on God and worship other things. And God experiences anger and frustration and sadness and hurt. And he brings about correction and judgment, but his covenant faithfulness and his steadfast love endure forever. And he always keeps his end of the covenant. And in the midst of all of this, I guess, is where we find ourselves today in this small book in the middle of the Old Testament about the life of a prophet, Hosea. Here we see one of the most radical stories of God's love and covenant faithfulness in all of the Bible, tucked in this small little book about this dramatic scene of the love of God. Hosea lived in the northern kingdom of Israel after the two kingdoms split. So we have the northern kingdom of Israel, the southern kingdom of Judah. And it was during the reign of Jeroboam II. The time of Jeroboam's reign was actually referred to as the northern kingdom of Israel's golden age because of their military might and expansion paired with this economic and political resurgence, which all started really under, the foundation was laid under King Jeroboam II's father, Jehoash. This created this society with flourishing crops and fancy buildings and architecture and a lot of wealth, at least for the upper to middle class. But yeah, by the world's standards, right, this was prosperity. But what seemed to bring about this quote-unquote prosperity, as one Old Testament commentary I was studying puts it, were the violent, oppressive, unjust, self-indulgent policies that the prophet before Hosea, Amos, had tried to warn Israel about, and he was abruptly escorted out of the country. And another commentary paired with this explains that this deplorable social condition of corruption and violence, murder, stealing, and lying was all an outcome of Israel's total disregard for God's moral and ethical instructions. Instead, they chose the worship of Baal and other gods to seek prosperity and flourishing, believing that Baal was the source of prosperity and production, seeming to completely forget their Jehovah Jireh, their God who provides. The one who led their ancestors out of Egyptian captivity, provided water from rocks and manna from the sky, a cloud by day and a fire by night. The one who entered into covenant and chose to partner with his people. The one whose only desire for true flourishing for his people, which only comes through covenant fidelity with him. Inevitably, this idolatrous, prospering society turned from wealth and prosperity to political unrest and unraveling, with unpredictable foreign policy and eventually the assassination of many political leaders. It's believed that during the time after Jeroboam II, 4 of the 6 kings of the northern kingdom were assassinated. And in the midst of this, God, in his God-like ways, comes to his prophet Hosea and calls him not just to prophesy to these unfaithful people, but to live his prophecy. God in Hosea chapter 1 says to Hosea, "Go and marry a promiscuous woman and have children with her, for like an adulterous wife, this land, these people, are guilty of unfaithfulness to the Lord." So he married Gomer, the son of Dioblaim, and she conceived and bore him a son. Man, what's that like when God comes to you and says, go and marry a promiscuous woman, a woman known for her harlotry, her many casual encounters with other men? God, is that you? Do you have the right person? Maybe you got some wires crossed or something got lost in translation somehow. No, Hosea. Go marry a woman of promiscuity. So Hosea obeyed, and I'm sure it turned a few heads, like Hosea was probably this pretty well-known figure or a public figure, right? And even in a society known for its own promiscuity and corruption, I'm sure deep down at least, if not explicitly, people were still seeing Hosea marrying this sinful woman and saying, wow, I know I'm living in sin, but he's supposed to be the holy one, right? He's supposed to be the one who kind of keeps us in touch with God, right? But they married and they lived together and they love one another. And she bears him 3 kids, and they start to raise those kids, and they do life together. Maybe go to the kids' ball games or have dinner with their neighbors. Until one day, Gomer leaves. She leaves her husband and kids in the life that they built to be loved by one another. And it's not clear how this came about, but I imagine that maybe she met someone in town on her way to draw water from the well, or maybe one of their kids' friends' parents. One thing led to another. Maybe, it was the lust of sexual practices used for Baal worship in that day. Or maybe she found a situation where she received certain things or certain privileges for being with a certain man. And Hosea, this well-known prophet of the living God, was left with a half-empty bed and 3 kids to raise on his own, hurt and embarrassed and heartbroken. It was probably hard to sleep. Even harder to wake up in the mornings, trying to take care of the kids, make breakfast, get them out of the door with their backpacks and their packed lunches. And I'm sure they probably had questions too. The kids ask, where'd Mom go? Dad, did Mom leave? Did Mom leave us? Until one day, we don't know how long it was, but one day God comes to Hosea and says, go and love your wife again, even though she commits adultery with another lover. For this will illustrate that the Lord still loves Israel, even though the people have turned to other gods and love to worship them. So Hosea, he's already been talked to by God once before to go marry this woman. He's like, all right, I thought maybe something was mixed up, but he kind of learns his lesson this time, and he just listens. And, I wonder what that was like too, though. Hosea, go find her. Go find your wife who's being loved by another lover. So Hosea goes searching. Have you seen my wife? Have you seen Gomer? I haven't seen her for a while. I was just wondering, have you seen her? No, I haven't seen her. I'm sorry. Have you seen her? Gomer. You know Gomer. We were married. Gomer? Oh, I didn't realize you guys were still together. I'm sorry. I saw her with so-and-so a couple days ago. And Hosea, he keeps searching and he keeps searching, and he stumbles upon something that scholars believe to be some sort of auction. That maybe the lover that she was with, she became somehow indebted to this lover, to this person, or maybe the lover just kind of got tired of her, and she's found at this auction, and Hosea buys her back. But wasn't she already his? And he buys her back. Chapter 3, verse 2. So I bought her back for 15 shekels of silver and a homer of barley and a measure of wine. And I said to her, you will remain with me as mine for many days, and you shall not play the prostitute. You shall not have intercourse with a man, nor I with you. You'll remain with me. Imagine what that encounter's like. Hosea looking into the eyes of Gomer, and Gomer ashamed for the way she's left and the things she's done. And he says, you'll come back and you'll stay with me. This is Hosea renewing his vows to Gomer. I will love you again, Gomer, and I'll care for you for many days. Verses 4 and 5, again in chapter 3. For the Israelites shall remain many days without a king or a prince, without sacrifice or pillar, or other idols or gods, but afterward the people will return and devote themselves to the Lord their God and to David's descendant, their king. In those days they will tremble in awe of the Lord and his goodness. This is the love of the Lord for his people, that although we go searching in all the wrong places for love and purpose and meaning, God goes searching and finds us. And he finds us when we weren't so nice and neat and cleaned up. And he buys back what was already his. This, friends, is the gospel. Many years before, this is the gospel. That while we were still sinners, Christ died for us. And it doesn't make sense outside of covenant and outside of God. It doesn't make sense to our society today because nothing else can offer us this kind of love, this kind of fulfillment, this kind of commitment. You know, it makes me think, I was thinking about this song that got really popular a couple years ago called Reckless Love. Oh, the overwhelming, never-ending, reckless love of God. And it kind of created this little bit of a drama in the Christian world. I don't know if you knew about it or not, or if you really thought too much about it, or if you're on one side or another, but it created this drama because, you know, the writer of the song, he's just trying to portray that this love of God was so vast that it went and it searched for him. Just like Pastor Todd was preaching last week about the lost things that were searched for. It went and searched for him when he wasn't so nice and neat and cleaned up. And then there's this other camp that thinks, there's this man who came out with his own version of it, and he goes, he thinks it's deplorable that the writer of the song used the word reckless for God's love. And he came out with his own version. God's love's not reckless. It's intentional, whatever. And yeah, I mean, I think the author of this song, I don't think he's thinking God's intentions are not reckless. I think he probably believes that. But our human language doesn't have a way of putting it because society, the worldly society we live in, it doesn't make sense. This love of God that is committed to God's people no matter what. It doesn't make sense, right? The only kind of vocabulary he can use is reckless because society would say that kind of love is reckless. Why would you go after someone who doesn't want you, who's left you, who's worshiped other people and other things? We live, there are bounds to everything else outside of God. Every relationship and religion and republic, there are bounds. It's finite, it's transactional. It's, what have you done for me lately? You know that song? It's, you scratch my back and I'll scratch your back. It's, I'll care when it's convenient, but I really only care about me and mine and above all else, and I will plow through anyone and everyone in my way to get there. Everything else, the society's kind of love or commitment is transactional. I work for this small business in Durham, a kombucha business. If you don't know what it is, it's like a probiotic sparkling tea drink, kind of hippie. But I work for this beverage company, and I deliver on Wednesdays. Load up the van, go to a bunch of businesses, and in the retail world, in the coffee shop world, and the restaurant business, all the things, we take care of each other. And so I always pack a few extra, and I have my certain coffee shops I go to, and when I take them their cases of kombucha, I give it to them and I say, hey, I brought you a few extra. And they're always like, hey, what can I get for you? I'll get you a coffee on the house. It's my little routine, and I always know these certain places. They always hook me up with coffee in the mornings, and it's really nice, And then there's this really good donut place, and I love donuts. And so I start doing that with them too. I'll bring them a couple extra, and sometimes it depends on who you get, but when whoever comes to get the delivery, but I'm like, I brought you a few extra, and sometimes they'll be like, can I get you a couple donuts? The first time blew my mind. They brought me like a half dozen donuts. I was like, God bless you. But this past week, I delivered to the donut place. Like, hey, here you go. Here's your 2 cases. I brought you a couple extra. And they're like, all right, thanks. Have a good day. And I'm standing there like, and they just go inside. They take their order, go inside, and I do the walk of shame back to the van. I'm like, man, I really wanted some donuts today, right? But this world, it's transactional, and I lived into it a little bit. This world outside of God can never bring us fullness. It's not commitment to a political party that will bring you wealth or prosperity. It's not wealth and prosperity that will bring you fullness. It's not the worship of our work and the pride in our performance that gives us true purpose. Rather, it's the one who comes searching for us at our worst days and says, I see you, and I love you, and you are mine, and I am yours, and I am committed to you, and I will never break my covenant. No, I will buy you back by the blood of the Lamb, even though you are already mine, because of how much I love you, and I will never give up on you. I am the one who provides, says the Lord. I am the one who gives you love and a purpose. I am the true source of light, and with me you will never be lacking. And in these days you will revere me in my goodness. This, my friends, is the love of God. It's the love of the Lord. And I'll close with this, just something kind of to take with us. Cool little connection here. It's the name of Hosea means salvation. And the name Gomer means completion. God is our Hosea, and we're Gomer. And God's deepest desire is that his people are restored back into the covenant. And God continually invites us into active participation in a relationship with him. So we take this extravagant, reckless love of God, and we let it transform our lives. And we live in this relationship with God knowing we'll never be lacking, no matter a cancer diagnosis or failed kidneys or whatever hardship we go through. Doesn't mean we're not going to go through hardships, but that God goes with us and he brings us through it in one way or another. And this is the kind of love that we are to let radically transform the way that we relate to one another and relate to the world. So go, friends, and experience this love, accept this love, and share this love with everyone around.